Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. So, I am really excited to be bringing on a very unique guest for today, Nunky Koma. And that is simply because she actually started out as just many of you guys here today tuning in as a listener of the show and reached out to me talking about how much this show and this podcast has helped her succeed as a real estate agent. And finally, now we're bringing her on as a guest to talk a little bit more about her success as a real estate agent, as a business owner as well. So Nunky is a specialist in helping first-time home buyers and actually sharing a lot of valuable educational content to help her generate business, but also help her clients out in an extremely unique way as well. So we're going to have her talk a little bit about her experience in the business, her experience as a real estate agent, and really what has made her successful even starting out in real estate part-time. So Nunki, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you join us here today.
Hi, Kobe. Thank you so much. I don't think you are more excited than I am. And look, I think I've expressed to you quite a number of times how excited I am. Greatly honored to be here. And hello to the FLA family. Is it okay to call them that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's super cool to have you join us on the show as a guest because I remember when you first reached out to me, as a listener, and I thought, wow, there's people actually listening to the podcast. How exciting is that? So on my side, I don't know if we talked about it before, but it was really exciting for me that you actually reached out and expressed how valuable the FLA podcast was for you as you started to begin building and developing your business as well. So, Nuki, why don't you share with us a little bit today before we get started, a little bit about yourself? How did you get your start in real estate and really your journey up until today?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kobe. So really, when I think it was was it 2 years ago when I reached out to you, I was like new. I think that was the year in which I entered into the real estate, and I was so eager to learn. And so I always say, I think I intentionally bumped into your podcast. The reason I say intentionally bumped into it is because I was intentionally seeking a podcast that would add value in my growing in the real estate. And I think it was just a timely search. I don't remember whether it your podcast popped up in my searches, but there was just something that drew me to the podcast, and I'm glad that I got drawn to the podcast because I through that through your podcast, look, I have grown in ways that I cannot explain. But what put the cherry on top is that when I reached out to you, I was actually shocked that you actually responded back to me the day that I reached out to you. And that was the beginning of not just a relationship, but growth for me in ways that I cannot explain. So I am really grateful for that. You're going to have to stop me because I talk a lot. I'm sure you've realized, right? So I'm grateful. So coming back to your question, who Nunki is and how I started. So I'm a girl. I'm a pastor's kid in South Africa, and hey, that tells you that your podcast is reaching nations beyond probably what you can imagine. I know that you've had guests from this side before, but they are not just guests. You actually have an audience in South Africa, not just guests. So yes, in a town called Polokwane, I would believe that a lot of you are exposed to Cape Town, Johannesburg. So I am in Polokwane. It's just a little bit, not really metropolitan, but yeah, it's a fairly not so big, not as big as Cape Town, but a fairly big city. Um, and that's where I was born, bred, and battered. And this is home. This is home for me. So I grew up in a family of four girls: my mom, my dad, and my three other sisters. So we are four girls. I have always been an ambitious little girl, even growing up. I've always been a go-getter. So that's briefly my upbringing. Grew up in a very disciplined religious family. Disciplined. I mean, my dad is a pastor, so yeah, grew up in that kind of environment with great morals instilled. And like any other girl here in Polokwane, went to high school, finished my high school, then went to tertiary. We call it tertiary. That's like university. Um, in Pretoria, I studied marketing. I also stumbled into marketing because initially I wanted to study law, which is what I'm pursuing now, studying. For always wanted to study law, but I was a bit scared because of the stigma around then the stigma around law, but I ended up in marketing. I'm glad I did. So I hold an honors degree in marketing. Yeah, I worked at a Bidvest company for quite a number of years as a regional sales rep. So that's where I got to learn the skill of customer service, interacting with people because my clientele was business owners. Um, business owners, not like a business to business kind of setup. So that's where I got to learn negotiations, customer service, and all. So after years, like I said, I'm a go-getter of being in that space. Eventually, I was like, is this it? You know, when you feel like I've reached I've reached the ceiling. Yes, there is that security that comes with a monthly income, but is this really it? Is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? And that's when I thought, I need to get out of here. And where do I go? And that's when I again stumbled into the real estate. But I've always had an interest in real estate, but from afar it looked intimidating until I stepped into it. So when I approached my principal, I think the day she did not interview me, I actually picked up the phone and I was like, I want to work here. That's how much of a go-getter I am. And the first question she asked me was, okay, who are you? You want to work here? I don't always get that. And she's like, do you have any experience in the real estate? And it was a no. It was a very confident no, because I think at that time I knew what I wanted. And just because I was not trained in that area, I was not going to allow it to be a stumbling block. So I remember I said to her, no, I've never been in real estate, but look, you can train me on anything and I'm good to go. She then called me and said, come to my office the next day. She interviewed me, we had a conversation, and the same day, I received my contract. I signed, and I started working. I started working at Keller Williams in Southern Africa, and it has been amazing. And they were telling me, I remember in order for me, they put me on the productivity coach program. And I think the first week, this is how eager I was. The first week of being in Keller Williams, I got my first listing. That very week, yeah, that very week, I got my first listing. I did not know anything about price counseling. I knew nothing. What is a correctly priced property? I just asked, and it was somebody from our church, by the way. It was a lady from our church that I reached out and said, look, I'm in real estate now. If you ever want to, buy or sell, I'm your girl. She's like, okay, oh, Shane, my pastor's kid. Let me just give you this listing, And I listed it. She gave me, I couldn't even price counsel, I just said, okay, so what do you want? What do you want in your pocket? Because at least that much I knew. And she's like, no, I want this much in my pocket. And you know what? Because I did not even know how to really calculate that commission and stuff. I robbed myself 50%, 15% of the VAT because I did not include it in my commission. So yeah, but that was a learning curve. We put the property on the market. Literally 2 seconds after it went live on the portals, my phone started buzzing. That time, I don't even know what to do. I remember her like, at some point, I just hang up all the calls and I called my productivity coach and I'm like, hey, I'm seeing so many calls. I don't know how to respond to these. So I hit the ground running. That was my start into the real estate.
That's fantastic. I think that's such a wonderful story that you shared how you got started in real estate because you mentioned that when you first called your agency, your principal,
Yes.
right? They asked you if you had any experience in real estate, and I love what you said there. You said you had a confident no. So for a lot of people, that's it can sound contradicting, that you don't have any experience, but you were really confident in that because you owned the fact that you didn't have any experience in real estate, that you have to start somewhere, right? Everybody starts being brand new at one point. Even the principal always start, you look at them and how experienced they are. They started as a brand new real estate agent at one point as well, but you were willing to learn, right? You were willing to learn and you were willing to get coached. And that was, proven in your first week that you were out there getting your business, telling people that you were in real estate, not being afraid to share that you were now starting in this new business venture. And you got your first listing in your first week, which is congratulations. Not a lot of people do that. In fact, a very small amount percentage of people do that. And you were able to really just hit the ground running. So as a new agent, you had quite a bit of success, really early on. I think, agents listening to this can learn a lot from just your experience within your first week as a real estate agent.
Yeah, man, it was quite a, I think it shook the entire office as well, because here's this girl who says she has no experience in real estate. And in the first week of her signing, I mean, being employed in this particular agency, here's her first listing. And, I love what you say that, when I said it was a confident no, but that was also setting, now that I think about it, it was also setting the platform of the kind of agent that I will be, that I will not be afraid. Sometimes we get so intimidated by not knowing certain things because we want to come across as the experts. But even experts, there's some things that they don't know about it. And when you own up to it, when I confidently say to my principal, no, I don't. I've never been in this real estate. I actually owned up to my position, but I remember then I said to her, I am willing to be trained. And that has set, Kobe, I must say, that has set the ground for the kind of agent that I am even today. Even my clients will tell you, it doesn't matter whether I get it wrong, I will own up. I will not make an excuse for it. I will own up and then chart a way forward. Because I think more than anything, we are supposed to bring solutions to people, and transactions are not always straightforward. I mean, I was just sharing with you about all the fires I was putting out this week, and things are not always so straightforward. But the thing is, always be a person, like, yes, come from a place of contribution, own up and bring a solution even when you've gotten it wrong. And that's what intimidates a lot of new agents. And no, I don't want to do this because I don't want to get it wrong. But how else are you going to learn if you don't get it wrong? I'm not saying intentionally get things wrong, but I'm just saying if it so happens, just own up and fix whatever needs to be fixed.
Absolutely. Right. Because we have to start being, if we want to get good at something, we have to start, being bad at it first before we can actually start learning and improving. And I think the most important aspect of that being an agent and how to not be afraid of that is to just own up to it. Just be upfront, telling other people that, hey, this is something that I'm still trying to figure out, but I'm willing to learn and figure it out with you alongside you if you are also willing to stick by me in this process as well. And I think that's, you can talk about it yourself, but I think that's a big part of what made you very successful, not just in your first week, but, in your first, couple of years as a real estate agent as well. It's just that authenticity that I think people can see and can clearly feel in their interactions with you, both online and offline as well.
Yeah, it is very important because at the end of the day, we probably are exposed to the saying that people do business with people. And if you are not an authentic person in your dealings, then people don't want to deal with fake, especially in this industry. So owning up, coming up with solutions, I think I have learned a lot in that. And in that way, you also win people's trust. And trust is very important in this industry, especially with clientele or the clients that we deal with. And when you own up, when you communicate, even when you do make a mistake, that is how trust is also built, because you don't want to, they realize that you're not bringing out this facade of something that you are not, and they can then know that I can trust this one with my money. I can trust this one with my investment. And that's what I have learned in the few years that I have been an agent.
No, absolutely. Trust is maybe the most important thing, right, between yourself and a client, and that always starts with just being authentic, right?
Yeah.
Instead of them having to find out later that you weren't upfront with them about something, or maybe you concealed, an aspect of yourself or something that you didn't know to them in their interactions. It's just much better to be upfront we always say like under promise so that you can over deliver later on as an agent with your services.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And under promise, over deliver. I've had to learn that as well along the way, to say whatever you do, even though I was exposed to it, like I said, I was a regional sales rep. I knew that from that place, but it's amazing that, I mean, it's quite two different worlds where I was, and the real estate, but the what do you call the basics are the same, you know under promise, over deliver. And sometimes, because we always want to impress our clients, we can get caught up. And I'll tell you a story of one of my listings then that I did, about over promising. And it's not just about over promising a client. It was about a description of a property. I think it was my third listing in my first year, a description about a property. I wanted it to come across as, this beautiful property. And I described it in the most meticulous way that when you read it, you would want to walk into this property. And a client of mine who was also a member of my church. So my first year, I did a lot of work with people from my dad's church. That was my sphere of influence, right? So this lady sees this property. The price was quite attractive. She walked into the property and she's like, I remember she bluntly said to me, but Nunky, this property is not as you described it. I'm quite disappointed. I'm quite disappointed because your description said something. And from that day, Kobe, I promise you, I thought, mm-mm. Look, I must dare not. That's like over promising a client, really, that this property is like this. And when they walk into it, the description does not match really what you were saying. I'm not saying we must badly describe our properties, but remember, we're talking to fairly new agents. Yeah, we're not talking. I think my focus is just to encourage the newer agents like me, that look, let it be as real as it is. Because overpromising is not just the service that you will provide your client, or as you pitch that listing, in that listing appointment, but even the things what you say about a property. Is this property really what you say it is? Or is a client gonna walk in there and go like, huh, this description. So I had to stop that and had to be as authentic and about the descriptions of the properties that I list as well. And I've seen that it has brought in buyers that are not as disappointed as opposed to describing a property to impress a client. And when they walk in, it's like, what is this? You know?
Yeah, and I think for new agents, it's important to understand that it's not about getting buyers into the appointment, right? Now, that's part of the process. You
Yeah.
have to get buyers into the appointment in order to get to your end goal. But the actual goal of putting out property descriptions and getting listings is not just to get those listings, it's to actually, conduct the transaction, right? It's actually to sell the property to a potential buyer as well. So if they're walking in and they're disappointed, then right off the bat, instantaneously, they're not going to want to, continue pursuing that transaction further. So you're not attracting the right people. So I think that's a really great lesson that you just shared with everybody because I think for a lot of agents, that's what they're thinking about. They can see right what's in front of them, which is, hey, I have this listing. I need to get as many people in the door as possible, but you don't want to be dishonest or not truthful about it. You want to make sure that you're attracting the right buyers so that way when they come in, they're wanting to make that deal and they're wanting to, actually follow through with the transaction. So it's a win-win situation for everybody in that case.
Exactly. And as well, besides them not wanting to continue with the transaction, you don't want to lose somebody's trust. You don't want to lose somebody over she is not as authentic. This one will try to lure you into, and fortunately it was a member of our church and I was able to, fix things. And I think when we walked away from that appointment, I had to revisit my description. I had to change it to make sure that it really fits truthfully what that property is about, which is why I was saying it's one of my characters. If I see that I've done something wrong, I own up to it, fix it, and there and there. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Just making sure you're correcting your mistakes and correcting and improving as quickly as possible, making that turnaround time as short as possible, so that way you're always improving over time as well. So something else I really wanted to kind of get your take on was your first year as an agent. So you mentioned already a couple of times that you were able to get your first listing in your first week, and in your first year you at least had three listings, right? Because this past story you were talking about was your third listing. So, how were you able to build up your career and your business so successfully within that first year as a real estate agent? Because there's a lot of agents who come into the industry, and that first year is usually the hardest for them.
Yes. So in that first year, honestly speaking, um, what helped me in the first year, and I know that some of them might not want to hear this because I didn't have a huge clientele. Cold calling was one of the things. There is no running away from it, and it works. It really does. It works. I mean, we have a fairly big church. My dad is pastoring a fairly big church, but it was not everybody that was in that church that was selling or buying. So I really knew that no, I need to get out. So it was hard. It was intimidating, especially coming from the background that I came from as a regional sales rep. I worked with the same clients and I was sure of a certain amount of sale from the same people. But with these ones, I can't force people to sell their same house or buy the same house over and over again. So I cold calling as much as we don't really like it. I don't know. Maybe there you guys, that side of the world, you enjoy it, but this side, a lot of us don't like it, and we call it lead generation. And cold calling is, I think, it is one of the most effective ways and the most what you call timely response. Like you know that I'll get a response now, whether this person is buying or selling, whether they can refer me, whether I can get them as a onto my database. Right there and there, you get your response, and we might not like it, but it is very effective. It still is very effective, I think.
Yes, cold calling is something that's really, as a new agent, is maybe one of the first strategies you learn because you can also make your mistakes quickly and learn from them quickly as well. So, when you were starting to cold call, what are some of the top lessons that you learned as you began to start dialing the phone, right? Because there's a lot of new agents who have a lot of trepidation. It's not just where you guys are at. I think it's around the world. Nobody likes to cold call. I don't think I've met anybody who says in the very beginning that this is something that they're dying to do every single day. So there's always a lot of trepidation, especially amongst newer agents on, should I really pick up the phone, or, the phone really weighs like 1,000 pounds to them. Right. So what was it that you learned to help you get over that over time, or do you just kind of learn to deal with that and really just discipline yourself and push through?
So we have, especially in the market center that I am in, We had a lot of support in what sense? Script practicing those scripts, and my principal, I don't know what you call them, she says, no, don't call it scripts because you guys become so negative the minute we say scripts. Just say, you're practicing to have guided conversation with whoever you will be interacting with. So because I did not know what it is that I'm supposed to say, I needed, to get those, let's call them scripts. They are scripts, right? I needed to get those scripts just to guide me on on what it is that I'm supposed to say. I've got quite a number. I've got quite a few funny stories because I remember this other day because we also use material from like Keller Williams, based in the like international, and I was reading this other script this other day, and I'm like, I don't remember what term they used in that script, and we don't have it here in South Africa. And I said to my principal, um, are you sure this is what I'm supposed to say to these people when I call them? I just forgot what that word was. And everybody was just laughing in the office, like, no, you don't do it word for word. You need to make sure that it is, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's tailor-made. You need to work it, like tailor make it to your clientele, your environment, and where you are based. But the core thing, like the issues that you deal with, when you cold call, you can just see how you can handle them. So it was many weeks of, trying to use a script. And being an artist, we are so used to freelancing and just being so free, and it felt like I was being jailed a bit. But look, until I didn't use them for too long, honestly, I didn't use the scripts for too long. I had to find a way of what you call, a way of being comfortable, or finding a way that I will be comfortable talking to the clients.
Yes, so I think that's when you're talking about scripts, right? So I think it's important for people to understand if they've never actually gone through a script before that it's not so much word for word, like telling you what to say. I think that's the wrong idea approaching scripts. It's more so just kind of giving you the direction of the conversation because as you know, if you're getting on the phone with somebody, there's so many different directions that you can go, right? There's so many different directions a conversation can go, and it can go in a completely different direction that you will want it to go, and you're just completely lose control of that situation. So I think that's where, like you said, a guided script, right? A guided dialogue can help you with that because it forces you to kind of move a certain conversation into a direction, and then at that point there's only a few outcomes that are possible, and then it also shows you exactly what you should be doing and how you should be guiding the potential client back into a back on track if any of those scenarios arise, right? Depending on how they respond and kind of their sentient towards what you're saying to them.
Yeah, and I've got a, you know what, my start in this industry is quite funny because I remember there was a day, not even just once, Kobe, I must say, but when the conversations would go in a way that I didn't expect, I would just hang up and I'd be like, oh hell no, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to this person. And pretend as though we got cut. It was a crazy journey for me, honestly speaking. And I had quite a number of hanging ups. I would just hang up and go like, I don't know what to say to this person. And then I would then ask my productivity coach, man, my productivity coach had it hard with me. Honestly speaking, I would hang up and then I'd go back to him and I'd run to him. I don't know what to say to this person. And I'm like, no. And I would say to him, no, tell me what it is that I'm supposed to say. And then I'll call them back and I'll just say, we got cut or something like that. Just a few days trying to get a hold of this script thing. And it's crazy. It has been quite a crazy, but You grow. The other thing is you won't grow until you keep on like the only way to grow is to keep on doing it until you are comfortable, until you find your ground. And right now, I can't say I'm a pro, but honestly speaking, I have much confidence to pick up the phone and cold call. Honestly speaking, it is becoming more natural than it was when I started out.
Yeah, and that's a unique kind of a feeling, right? Because when you first start out, you never think you're ever going to get to that point, and then you don't even realize that transition until like, a couple years later, like wow, like looking back, this is so different now. This feels so much natural. I'm so much better at this, and I didn't even realize when that started to happen, but it was just this continuous process and growth and learning and improvement that happens over time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, you don't even know because really, where I am seated right now, I can't tell you when the switch or the transition happened. It just so happens. I mean, I think it was last week. I was telling my principal that one of the things that devastated me was where a listing appointment is concerned is when you pull a report about a client that you are going to see. And it really, this is one of the things that intimidated me. When you put a report and you see that this person has been in a multiple of real estate transactions, and you realize that, my goodness, I am going to have a chat with somebody that probably knows much more than I do because they've had quite a number of transactions. I remember when I called this man and when I pulled the report on it, and it was a cold call. It was a cold call. This happened last week, by the way. It was a cold call. And I, picked up the phone and, asked if he knows anybody that's looking to buy or sell, and it happened to be him. And honestly, even though I am much more confident than I was then, that fear arose a bit. I almost didn't go for that appointment, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to do this because how else am I going to grow? Went into that into that listing appointment, and he was adamant about the price that he wanted. And when I did a comparative market analysis, he was overpriced, and there are already four agents that have listed on the same price, and it's overpriced. Had a conversation with him, and he's a businessman. To cut the long story short, he called me back Tuesday, and he gave me a mandate and reduced his price to the correct price. And what I'm trying to say to newer agents, sometimes do it even if you are scared. Just get the boldness to do it. Do it even if you are scared. Get the facts right. Show them the facts. Let the facts speak. And I think I was the first agent too, because with all the other agents, he just gave them what he wanted in his pocket. Nobody engaged with him. Nobody showed him what was happening. So I was the first one to do that. Was I scared? Yes, I was, but I did it anyway.
And I think that's what made the difference between you and all the other agents as well, because you actually held strong on the professional opinion that you had. And it's always, it's always almost better to go in like as the last person because they can then compare your approach to the other agent's approach, right? Because you mentioned that this person had multiple agents who listed at the higher price. It didn't work for them. So you come in and you give a different opinion. So you are now showing that you're different and in fact going to, you know, provide a better service than the other agents who were there before. So for new agents, I think is absolutely crucial, right? To just go in there and try it because you don't know what can come out of it, right? The best situation, the worst situation, right? You just have to kind of analyze that and be okay with going in there and having it not go well, but just knowing that if it doesn't go well, you can also extract value from it, learn from it, so that way you can go into the next appointment with a better approach that can then help you improve along the way, one appointment at a time.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, what that also boosted my confidence for the rest of the week because I was able to have conversations, even with my, my other clients, I mean, other sellers that whose properties I had already listed that I knew were overpriced, because I conquered that one. I knew that I would conquer even the other ones. So really, it's just just keep at it. I just want to encourage the new agents, just keep at it. Yeah, there will be days where like you were saying, Kobe, it will go bad, but look, it's just let it be a hurdle. Let it be a hurdle that you have jumped, and you just move. You just move to the next hurdle, and yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, that it gave you confidence, right? What you did in that appointment actually gave you confidence for the rest of the week. Because a lot of times that's what you need, right? Sometimes you might be feeling a little bit down, or you might be feeling like you don't have the motivation or the confidence to go out there and just, go out and do the work that you need to be doing. And you realize that the thing that was holding you back was really just that one thing that you needed to do, right? That one jump that you were just too afraid to make. And if you do that, even if it goes well or if it doesn't go well, it doesn't matter if the results is really just that confidence that you're giving yourself that, hey, I'm taking this step to take this
Mhm.
action. And that's what's gonna give you the confidence. Not that it has to go well every time, but it's just making the call, right? Just showing up to the appointment. That's gonna give you that confidence to move forward throughout your week.
Definitely, definitely. And also just, when deep down in your heart that what you are providing really is the best that you have, whether it goes wrong, whether it goes good or bad, but when you search on the inside of you and you know that you've really given it your best, I think you can go sleep at night with with a peaceful heart because you gave it your best.
Exactly. Absolutely great advice there. And let's talk a little bit about now kind of what you're doing now. Because we talked in the beginning that you post a lot of very great educational content out there for potential home buyers, and that's how you generate a lot of your business as well. So what is your focus now in real estate? How are you differentiating yourself, especially on the social media and content side? Because you do post a lot of great content. And we talked a little bit about this off the air as well before the podcast on just your focus and how really unique it is when it is that you are approaching your content and helping other potential home buyers with their real estate transactions as well.
Yeah. So I came to realize that we in Polokwane, particularly in Polokwane, we don't have an agent that is really about putting out educational content out there. Most of the agents here in Polokwane are people, it's just that us, the younger generation, we're only coming in now, but it's still dominated by elderly agents, some who are not very much exposed to social media and stuff. So I'm jumping on that wave, right? I'm riding on that wave. And I I realized after I think I told you that last year was a very tough year for me. And I had to shift my focus when this year started to say, look, okay, it was a tough year, but how are you what is the plan? What are we going? What is the approach that we are taking this year? And that's when I thought about, let me put myself out there as an educational real estate agent. I'm not about getting those sales well, even though we know like it is about me getting the transactions, but let me put myself out there and just educate people. But I'm doing it authentically, especially first-time home buyers. I'm realizing that it is very intimidating for a lot of first-time home buyers, especially here in Polokwane. Like I'm saying, most of the agents are not really about educating their like people around the transactions and stuff. So that has brought a lot of attention to me as an agent because people know that when they click on my social media page, it's not just about I just sold this property, I just listed this property. I am going to talk about things like transfer duty versus transfer cost. What happens when you know, those things that they never think about. Even sellers, talk about. I don't know if you saw one of my videos where I talk to sellers that, yeah, I know that whenever you list your property, you sell your property, you think that all the profit is coming to you and all the cost is going to the buyer, but are you aware that there are some costs that you may incur as a seller? So such things have really drawn people's attention to me. I might not get those deals now from the people that are following me, but it's a long term. Like I'm building something. I want to be known as that agent that you can rely on for information, that agent that you can rely on for, if you get stuck in a transaction. And I guess in the long run, people will want to deal with the person that is, because you will come across as an expert when you deal with such. People want to deal with a person who knows their story, who will guide them throughout the transaction. And something interesting happened. This week, there's a guy that posted. I did not even know him on Facebook, and I think he's got around 526 following. And he posted the day before yesterday. He's like, I'm looking for an agent in Polokwane. The number of tags I got from people on that post was shocking, and it's not people that I know. And I know that it is because they have been listening to the videos that I've been sending, and I I have what you call mind share. you know, there's this, I've got what we call mind share. So being out there, I think for me, um, um, profiling myself as an educational agent as opposed to somebody that just wants to get a listing or a buyer is starting to really set me apart.
Yes, I think so as well. And you have to put yourself out there, right? You have to get people to know who you are. And I think that's so great that you're sharing what happened with this individual who asked for a real estate agent, and then people started tagging you in your profile, people who you didn't even know, because that's the power of content and social media these days, is that you can put yourself out there, and there's going to be people around the world that don't even know really who you are. You don't even know who they are, but they've
Yes.
seen your content and they know what you do. So they're recommending you to their friends. They're sharing your content to people who also need it as well. And the best way to do this, I think, for real estate agents getting started is through education, right? There's a lot of people out there who don't know what to post, who don't really understand how to utilize social media. But if you're sharing valuable knowledge to other people, if you're teaching them something, usually what happens is they're going to want to come back and learn more from you and also continue working with you on a deeper level as well. Because once you've added value to someone once, they're going to come back to you and look for more value from you later on as well.
It's so true. And I love the word that you use, when you're providing value. If there's one thing I I never wanted to do, even my productivity coach will tell you, I was like, I don't want to stand in front of a client. And after I am done interacting with them, they don't feel like I added value to them. That for me would be a waste of an interaction. Even if I don't get a transaction or a sale or whatever, but as long as a person walks away and they know for sure that I've added value. I mean, with this client that I'm telling you about, that with the listing that I got this past Tuesday, when we did, I didn't get the listing on the day that we met, but I provided value. And guess what? He called me and said, come list my property. In fact, he said, I'm with my wife now. Come, please do come see me with my wife. I told her what you told me. That's providing value. To say, when he said, I told my wife what you told me, and we are willing to sit and to hear you out. And for me, I think I told you, Kobe, that for me at this point, for me, that is success to me at this point. That is part of success. for me. And and money, yes, money is important, but I think my major focus is providing that value. And when a person leaves me, or when we part ways with that person, whether when I hand over that key or whatever, they will know that this person provided value throughout the transaction. And when I said I was putting out fires this week, it was because I'm holding, because some of these transactions, I'm both the listing and the buyer's agent. And there you really need to, there's got to be a strong balance. There's got to be a strong balance. And when I was putting out fires, in the process, I was providing values for both parties. So you don't only provide value at the listing appointment, and when you throughout the transaction, you need to make sure that even when things go wrong, you can provide something, that a valuable solution, if I may say.
Exactly. Just something there to really kind of ground the transaction, right? Because I can imagine, right, not just dealing with one party, but also having to represent both parties and putting this transaction together, right? There's so much that goes on, and the fact that you're able as a real estate agent to kind of ground the transaction to provide value, like you said, throughout the entire interaction, not just in the beginning, because that way people see that you're not just kind of, providing value just to get them in the door and get them sign the contract, but you're also somebody who is valuable to work with. And then later on their next transaction, or when they talk to somebody in their sphere of influence, they will recommend you. So that's how you build a long-term business, and how you really build up a reputation over time, because everybody wants that quick win, right? In the beginning,
Yep.
you don't want to sacrifice your long-term business just to get a few quick wins, right? Because it
Mhm.
could really hurt you if you're being, dishonest or taking on too much that you can't handle, if you will.
Yeah, that is 100%. That is true. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning, but I'm enjoying it. That's another thing. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the lessons that it comes with. And that's what I want to say to newer agents. As stressful as it can be, please make sure that you do enjoy. Try to enjoy try to try to enjoy this, because man, if you are not going to enjoy, you'll go crazy. You'll go crazy. But as well, to also understand that more than anything, you are dealing with people. It's not just about the transaction. You're dealing with people, and that's what we are. We are humans. Um but yeah, just stick with providing that value, and just grounding the transaction. And like I'm saying, for me, success is when I part ways with somebody and they feel they have gained something valuable. um that's at this point. Yeah, I know that at some point the numbers will come. And that's what I want to say to newer agents, that the numbers will come. Don't rush this thing. Yes, our industry is all about speed and stuff, but you know what? The numbers will come, because some people get discouraged because you're thinking, yeah, in a year's time, I'm supposed to have these numbers. But what happens if in a year's time you don't have the numbers that you've really targeted for? And this is where what I said is important. As long as you know that you did your best, even if you don't see the results as yet, then you can go to sleep every night with a peaceful heart. But as long as you know that you really did your best, and the numbers will come. I mean, I'm going to come back on this podcast and I'm going to be now flaunting all the numbers that but for now, let me stay on my lane and work. Just work at it. That's my thing. Work at it until those numbers come. You said something about my principal. She was one at some point, a new agent. And that's the thing, the pressure that we sometimes have. We compare ourselves with people that have been in the industry for years. And that can sometimes be very discouraging. Yes, look up to them, but don't put the pressure on yourself of, trying to what they have achieved in like 30 years, and you feel you want to achieve it in just, a year, just because you want to prove a point. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, let's work with what you have, with a big goal, but work with what you have at this point in your career or in your life.
No, absolutely. That's so well said. And I think there needs to be more people out there who have achieved success in their industry, in their business, in real estate, that are sharing a little bit more about what happened when they first got started. Because all we see is kind of the finished product, right? The current product of who they are. But we're not hearing the stories of what happens when they first got started, the same struggles that we are experiencing when they were experiencing it, like you said, could be 30, 10, 20 years ago. It's just you're not seeing it at this point. And that's why I think this episode, this interview, what you were sharing today is so valuable. And Nunky, I just want to say thank you for being on the show today and for taking some time to share with us how you got started, some of the challenges that you faced, and how you were able to overcome them as well, and your philosophy to being a fantastic real estate agent, what makes you feel fulfilled, and kind of the journey that you're continuing to be on so that way other new agents, other agents who've been in the business for the industry a couple of years who are trying to get to that next level can learn directly from you, can learn from your experiences, and really grow in this journey together. So I want to say thank you, and for our listeners out there who are watching this or listening to this, if they want to get a hold of you, if they maybe want to learn a little bit more about what it is that you do or to look at your content, what are some of the best places for people to actually follow you on or to just get in touch with you directly?
Okay, so I'm active on Facebook and Instagram, both platforms. I am Nunky Koma, so you can just search for Nunky Koma with KW. I think on Instagram, yes, it's Nunky Koma with KW, and on Facebook, it's Nunky Koma Real Estate Services. So you can just hop on there, yeah, and you'll find my contact. I would love to connect with some of your listeners here, learn from each other, and yeah, grow from there. And thank you so much for having me. I had the time of my life. I'm sure you heard in all the chuckles and everything, and the energy. I really enjoyed being here, and I'm looking forward to listening to more content from you, because I think your podcast is what is needed in that, you connect the I've just started with those that have already been experienced, so it is relevant for no matter where you are in your journey as a real estate agent. FLA will reach you at your point of need, and that's one of the things that I appreciate about your podcast, Kobe.
I really appreciate you saying that, and like I said always as well, I really appreciate your energy, you tuning in, and even reaching out to me back when you did, because really that was one of the reasons you don't see it behind the scenes, but one of the reasons why we continue to do this and why we continue to have interviews is because we know there's agents out there like yourself who are listening to this that one day will be on the show as a guest to share their stories as well, and I'm just so glad that you had such a good time. And we'll make sure to have you back on in a little bit later time as well to share kind of where your journey has been in the next maybe year or so, or wherever you reach, the next point in your career as well, because we all do, and it's always a great time to reflect back and see what you've done. So I just want to say thank you again. We'll make sure to leave your contact information in the description and the show notes down below. But before we let you go, is there any last piece of advice, just any last tips you want to leave with the audience before we let you sign off for today?
Yes, I just want to say to them, it doesn't matter how hard it has been. We keep on going. We don't show up because things are good. We show up because of what's on the inside of us. So keep going, even because what is on the inside of you is what will carry you even through the hardest season of real estate. So stay blessed and all the best. Let's keep on winning. Thank you, Kobe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next show. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.